Now, to the origins of COVID. The president of a company who worked closely with the Wuhan Institute of Virology will be pressed by lawmakers on the coronavirus pandemic for the very first time in public. That will happen at the beginning of May. Let's bring in Ohio Republican Congressman Brad Wenstrup. He serves as the chairman of the House Select COVID Subcommittee. Congressman, good to have you with us today. So the person who is going to be with you is Peter Daszak. He is the head of the EcoHealth Alliance. Back in November, he gave closed-door testimony to your committee, at which you say there were inconsistencies. So what do you want to hear from him when he goes public at the beginning of next month?
Well, like always, we want to hear the whole truth, John, and hopefully we'll get that. As you said, he appeared to us at the Select Subcommittee in November of 23, and we found some inconsistencies with what he had to say at that time. So EcoHealth Alliance was involved with gain-of-function research. They say their mission is to prevent a pandemic. Well, that's somewhat ironic to me. You know, you go back to 2011, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Collins, they're talking about gain-of-function research. They want to do it. They think it's important to do it, but they talk about how risky it is. Even in 2012, Dr. Fauci said that when pressed, could it cause a pandemic if it got out of the lab? He said, I think the benefits outweigh the risk. But EcoHealth Alliance had a project called Diffuse, and they were going to take bat-borne viruses and perform gain-of-function research. They took that to DARPA. DARPA is Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They said, what we want to do is we're going to do the research in North Carolina at a BSL-3, a high-level secure lab. DARPA took a look at that and they said, no, it's too risky. We're not going to allow for the grant. Yet they go over to NIH and they get the grant. But here's where it gets sticky, John, is through a FOIA request, we have internal emails from Dr. Daszak of EcoHealth Alliance. And on those emails included Dr. Zhengli Shi in Wuhan, China. And he said, we don't want to set off an alarm by saying we want to do this research in China. So we're going to say we're doing it in North Carolina. And then once we get the money, then we'll do it in Wuhan at a more risky lab because it'll save money. This is basically what he was saying. And this is with the Chinese scientists on that email. So that's a grave inconsistency from what he told us that, no, we were just trying to do this at North Carolina. So interestingly, though, DARPA denies this because of the risk, yet he goes over to NIH and he gets the grant.
Now, time and time again, when appearing before Congress, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who was the head of the NIAID at the time and was the top virologist in the country, denied that there was ever any funding of gain-of-function research at Wuhan. Listen to what he said back in 2021.
I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Of course, in Congress, the biggest bee in his bonnet was Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who at one point charged this from Fauci. Listen here.
You're simply saying it doesn't exist because you changed the definition on the NIH website. This is terrible, and you're completely trying to escape the idea that we should do something about trying to prevent a pandemic from leaking from a lab. The preponderance of evidence now points towards this coming from the lab, and what you've done is change the definition on your website to try to cover your ass, basically.
All right, so what do you think?
Well, I definitely changed the definition on the website, and no one else had this unique definition of gain-of-function research.
But I guess my question is, did it or did it not happen? And did this virus come from the lab or did it not?
Well, as far as the EcoHealth Alliance grant is concerned, Dr. Fauci signed off on that. He says that an advisory board decides whether they should do it or not, and he just signs off on it. I will agree with what I have seen both from the Intelligence Committee and what we've been doing with this subcommittee is that the preponderance of evidence is from a lab. I believe it came from a lab. I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but there were a lot of things going on in Wuhan, including their bioweapons program. And so the evidence has really mounted. Some of it's classified, John. Some of it is not, but it seems that more and more that it came from a lab.
Well, this is going to be an interesting hearing, to be sure. Mark your calendars, May the 1st. Congressman, thanks for being with us to preview it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, John.